Greetings, everybody. Again, wherever you are in the world, we appreciate you joining us for our eighth annual webinar, the year in review and the year ahead. In what has become a closely watched annual tradition, Focusrite, Focuswire and Miles Partnership define and help explain the big trends reshaping travel and tourism in the past year and the year ahead. Now, we've got over 800 registrations for the webinar today. So for those of you new to our organizations, Miles Partnership is almost 70 years young and is a global tourism marketing and management agency, and Focusrite and Focuswire are global leaders in tourism research, advisory, event, and travel news services. Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Adams. I look after research and insights at Miles Partnership, and we've got an all-star team from both Focusrite, Focuswire, and Miles. Madeline List, Alicia Smith, Mike Coletta. They're all analysts at Focusrite, and I'll be introducing them as they go through their various research and analysis sections. And then Mitra Sorrell joined us in our major webinar earlier this year, our generative AI, and she's backed by popular demand. Mitra is editor-in-chief at Focuswire. And I'm delighted to be joined by our very own Catherine Potter, a leader in the Miles Partnership hospitality team. So we want to just give a shout out and thanks to our partners who helped us organize and share this webinar today. We'll be sending out huge amount of research and resources. So that includes our sister organizations or part of the Miles Partnership family, Black Diamond and Coraggio, and our association partners, including TTIA, Southeast Tourism Society, Destinations International, and the team at North Star, the parent company of Focusrite and Focuswire. So we have identified, and we'll dive into 4 trends, both looking back over 2023 and looking ahead to 2024. We'll be going through the latest research and insights in each of these, and then Catherine and I will jump in with some practical examples and takeaways. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have an opportunity for a Q&A. So please put your questions in the Q&A field, and we can either answer them during the webinar or when we come back to that panel discussion at the end. Now, all the resources from today, including the webinar recording, the slide sets, and a huge number of links to various research and references will be shared out both on this landing page, which will be updated and relaunched tomorrow, and in an email out to everyone who registered. So there'll be all sorts of interpretive materials in all these critical areas. So without further ado, let's jump into our first critical trend with COP28 just wrapping up in the last day or two. It's very timely and topical, and Madeline's got some really impactful research to share. So over to you, Madeline.
Thanks, Chris. So we did some really cool sustainability research this year that I'm going to talk with you about. One of the things that made this unique is that we actually blinded the first half of a consumer study, a consumer survey, so that people answered questions to us about their travel behaviors, not knowing that we would be looking at it through the lens of sustainability. That lets us compare what people say they believe about sustainability with the actual behaviors that they did. And I'll be able to show you some of the gaps between the two and also offer some insights that we can take away based off of the discrepancies we're seeing. And the discrepancies are really interesting here. So take transportation, for instance. In the markets that we studied in the US and Europe, around half of people say that they're more likely to choose a method of transportation for its carbon footprint than for its convenience. And that sounds great. But then when we put that next to the number of people who actually chose transportation based on environmental friendliness or low carbon footprint, we see some really significant drop off here. And it's not just something that's happening in transportation whatsoever. When it comes to lodging, again, around half of people in US and Europe say that they're more likely to choose lodging based on its environmental friendliness than for its price. But then when we asked travelers how they narrow down between similar properties that have comparable price, location, and comfort, it was only up to 13% of travelers who put sustainable practices within the top 5 ways that they narrow down similar properties. Really significant drop off there. And when I went through the data, there was a part of me that was really concerned that it was getting a bit twisted, because there are some people in the population who really don't care about sustainability in travel all that much. And there was a possibility that they were changing the way that the data played out. So we looked at it based off of the travelers who were sustainability oriented, the people who really think about how to live greenly in their everyday lives versus those who aren't. And what we found is that people who are sustainability oriented at home, they're more likely to choose travel components for a green reason, but it's still truly a minority of them who are taking sustainability into account when they're making those travel decisions. Now, with destination selection, this is an interesting area because overcrowding is an active pain point for travelers, and it's something that bothers them. And because of that, we see some different patterns play out. Around half of people say that they are more likely to visit a place that's not very well known, but also less crowded. And for destination selection, for picking less crowded places, we actually see better follow through on that compared with other categories. Still a pretty significant drop off, but when people feel the negative impacts of non-sustainable decisions, it changes the way they act, and we see some better follow through. There are a couple different ways that I want to encourage you to look at this also, because a lot of times when we talk about travel research, we present positive decisions, ways that people chose the things that they chose. But there's this other side of the coin that's really important to take into account, especially with sustainability. And those are the causes of active avoidance, the reasons why people decided not to go to a destination that they were considering. And when it comes to sustainability reasons for avoiding destinations, overcrowding is the #1 reason people decided not to go somewhere. So up to 40% of travelers decided not to go to a destination within the last 12 months because it was too crowded. And up to 23% decided not to go to a destination because it was too commercialized. These people are really important to take into account because they're kind of like silent losses. They're not the types who will show up to a destination and complain. They're the ones who are considering the destination and will decide not to go in the first place. That being said, an interesting thing happening with overcrowding and sustainability is that travelers often don't understand that dispersing can be a sustainable decision. It's more of a general travel preference to them. Only up to 21% consider visiting off the beaten path destinations as part of sustainable travel. So there's a lot of opportunity to really educate people and encourage them based off of framing it as a sustainable decision. I want to talk a little about fame because, of course, that's something that we know can contribute to overcrowding. And fame is something we sought to understand better throughout this study. So here on this slide, I'm putting up the 2 areas of fame, the percentage of travelers who chose their most recent destination because it was famous, and those who chose a recent tour or activity on their trip because the destination was famous for that kind of tour or activity. A couple things I really want you to look at and pay attention to here. The first is that people are actually less likely to pick a destination based off of fame than a tour or activity. And also, it's a bit of a minority of travelers in general who are going to places explicitly because they're famous. A big takeaway here is that the battle against fame when it comes to overcrowding isn't necessarily a case where people are status obsessed and they want to go to a destination because they're chasing clout or recognition of going to that place. I would say it that the issue is more that choosing destinations, choosing tours and activities, that can be a really overwhelming and difficult decision-making process. And when people feel familiar with places because they're so well known, it helps act as a shortcut for them. Economic sustainability was also an important thing for us to look at here. Travelers have really expressed in past situations and other research that buying local and supporting the local community is important to them. But when we see these types of discrepancies in other categories, it was definitely something that we wanted to understand better. So up to 66% of travelers across these markets said that they want the money they spend to benefit the communities they visit. And that's a great sentiment, though part of the issue is that they can't buy local if they don't know what is local. So we had a separate question in our study, and we wanted to understand whether people asked or checked about the sourcing on their most recent trips when they purportedly really want to support the community. And at the end of the day, not so many people are asking or checking about where their options come from. The thing that they're most likely to ask about is food. So while they have really good sentiments about wanting to support the local community, they're just not taking the practical steps that allow them to understand where things come from and how it's sourced. So based off of this, here are some insights I really want to offer about how to design more sustainable strategies and communicate with people more sustainably based off of the human behavior trends that we're seeing. The first is that understanding of what sustainability means in travel is really poor, and it's so important to define sustainable choices clearly, to label things incredibly clearly, especially at point of purchase. Ideally, travelers express to us in the research that they want information to be available as early as possible in that shopping and booking process. But realistically speaking, it's not always possible to get these messages across to the masses right at the beginning with the shopping and booking. So spread information across touch points, even if you can't get certain sustainability information to them until they're in the destination. It's still worth putting the communications at various points along the travel journey. Also, remember travelers' perceptions of responsibility when it comes to sustainability. A lot of travelers think that sustainability is important, but not necessarily their jobs on a personal level to carry out. And that's going to reflect in their decisions that they don't see themselves having the primary responsibility for that. In terms of recommendations around messaging and communications, the first is to make the recommendations to travelers super digestible, pithy, easy to understand. Based off of the data we see with active avoidance, consider that it's really important to tell them the don'ts, the things that they need to stay away from. That can be just as important, if not more, than telling them the do's and the decisions that are sustainable. And also bring them into the decision-making understanding, bring them into the rationale about what the sustainable choices are. Share the whys behind what they're doing, because understanding the justification can really help with people understanding what sustainability is and coming through with follow through. Thanks so much. Back to you, Miles.
Thanks again, Madeline. Some really impactful research highlighting that gap between belief. People think sustainability is important, but are they going to act on it, the behavior component? So we wanted to share some practical examples illustrating how to bridge this gap. The first one here is Colorado Tourism Office. They've had a long commitment to visitor education, helping explain how to travel responsibly. And that's tied with destination management and stewardship. It's aimed not just at visitors, but locals. And the Do Colorado Right campaign that we're just showing here is a great example of making sustainability choices clear, practical, and accessible in a fun and engaging delivery style. So it's got all sorts of associated resources with it, including tips and suggestions and guidelines. So it builds on their Care for Colorado campaign that they've been running for quite a number of years. But if we think more holistically about bridging this gap, there's a great case study example from Hawaii that was actually showcased at Destinations International's annual convention by Kalani from the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And the example here is Haina State Park, which has seen a remarkable transformation from a tourism hotspot to a sustainable tourism management model. And it integrates marketing and management practices, including visitor education, a sustainable transportation system, which includes a park and ride and shuttle service, and deep engagement with the community, including a proportion of the revenue from the parking and access charges that go back into that local community. So now the Netherlands more holistically provides a national model where they've got a national sustainability strategy, which includes a practical roadmap for action at a local level, critical in terms of bridging that gap from the belief that tourism's important to demonstrating that, yes, we've got practical ways for travelers and the local communities to make sure that they're traveling and supporting travel in a sustainable way. And that includes driving dispersal across the Netherlands, working with local destinations, managing short-term rentals within a national framework, and a world-leading roadmap for action on climate change. You can actually watch these stewardship presentations in the resources we'll be sharing. That includes the Netherlands, Hawaii, and New Zealand. And just talking about climate change, COP28 just wrapped up in the last day or two. We've been doing for several years with a range of partners a white paper series, which includes 28 practical actions for destinations and tourism industry partners to make a real difference in their local community. And again, we'll be sharing that out in follow-up to today. So we need to empower travelers, challenge them to travel responsibly, educate them on how they can make smart choices. We need to demonstrate we're taking action, that it's not just marketing comms. We're on the ground working with local community, the industry, on making sustainable travel a reality, and we need funding for this. So tourism throws off huge amounts of funding. Often it's not going anywhere near sustainability or stewardship practices. As an industry, we need to significantly expand that, and we've got a whole range of resources we'll be following up in that area as well. So that's our first trend. Let's jump into our second trend. The latest trends on social media, and I'm going to pass over to Alicia at Focusrite. Over to you, Alicia.
Thanks, Chris. So social has become a part of everyone's daily lives. And many of our younger travelers don't even know what life is like without it. Long gone are the days of going to a travel agent's brick and mortar location and flipping through some pamphlets and walking away with some paper tickets in a folio. Now, many turn to their computer or their mobile device, pull up their social media, and start scrolling. So the pandemic spurred about an 11% increase in social media users worldwide, and penetration continues to grow. Although it is at a slower pace. Use of social media overall is projected to go from 295 million in 2021 to 308 million in 2023. Naturally, travel isn't immune to this influence of social, and 51% of Americans leverage social media when they were planning their leisure travel in the past 12 months. And this is about the same as the prior 12. Not surprising, our younger travelers are more likely to indicate that they use social, and our older travelers a lot less likely. 8 and 10, our 18 to 34-year-old age group used social media when planning their leisure trips. And while at first glance, the older travelers might have lower usage, this is actually where we saw the most notable shift from the prior 12 months. 21% of 55-plus-year-olds used social in the last 12 months, and that is a 7 percentage point increase over the previous year. And digging a little further into specific platforms used, we can see where the growth and the shrinkage occurred. So keep in mind that each traveler leverages 2 or more platforms on average. So Facebook remains the most dominant platform. Instagram is actually used the most among our 18 to 34-year-olds. But interestingly, Instagram and TikTok both gained among the 55-plus age group. TikTok was the only platform where we saw usage up actually across all age groups, maybe not significantly, but up. So this might speak to the growing popularity of short-form video, with Facebook and Instagram also focusing on Reels. Now, let's look at how the platforms were actually used. Regardless of the trip component or the phase the traveler may have been researching, platform usage was actually similar. And just like inspiration, when it comes to making trip decisions, Facebook and Instagram were more heavily used. As with many things in life, not just travel, our friends and our family are our biggest influence. People travelers know are 2 times more influential than online travel agencies, which were the second among social accounts used for travel. The influence of friends and family is growing along with a few other social accounts, but others have a long way to go before reaching the influence of the people they personally know and trust. And the influence of friends and family is the highest, regardless of age. In fact, our 18 to 34-year-olds are the most likely to seek the trusted connections. The second most influential for them are the online travel agencies and TV, streaming channels, and movies. And a quarter of them also are going to influencer or celebrity accounts. 35 to 54-year-olds were the most likely age group to turn to the social accounts of online travel agencies, and our older travelers were the most likely to lean on travel review accounts and those of the DMOs. Now, social media may have reach, but its influence is still limited. Only a quarter of all travelers, which is half of those who actually use social media for travel, say that it influences their leisure travel decisions. Social's increase in influence on travel from 2019 to 2020 was huge. Since then, it's remained fairly steady and increased slightly for the younger travelers and even more so for our older travelers. If we look at just destination choice like we have here, we see that those who say social media played a significant role in their decisions on where to go doubled from 2019 to the first half of 2023. And while this is specific to destination selection, based on other data we feel it's safe to assume similar trends would apply to other aspects of trip planning. When we asked travelers, roughly half agreed with the statement that vacation is a time to take a break from technology. But perhaps it's a sign of our times that we can't resist sharing with our social networks while we're on our trip. 55% of US travelers shared their experiences on social, either during or after their trip. Posting pictures or videos was only a little more popular than posting comments, and travelers are posting more so during their trip than after. And as we just saw, this content will be the most influential when those in their social networks are looking to plan their next trip. Now, at Phocuswright, we have our finger on the pulse of technology and how it intersects with travel. One of those trends is around social commerce. I'm sure you've seen ads on your feeds for fashion sites or other things that you've been looking for online. Travel still lags when it comes to reaping the benefits of social commerce, but there is a significant opportunity here, especially among our younger travelers. As Gen Z becomes a larger part of the US traveling population, their reliance on social media may lead to increased opportunities for brands. Brands can play at that intersection of social and e-commerce to influence decisions and increase conversion. Social is a growing part of our everyday lives, and the travel industry has plenty of room to accelerate its influence on social when it comes to trip inspiration, researching, planning, booking, and sharing. So keep using Facebook and Instagram. They have the largest reach and actually the most mature strategies for paid social media. But platforms like TikTok will continue to grow because of the engaging formats that they provide. And just as people became comfortable buying other products through social, more travelers will also become comfortable booking their trip components via social. If I left you hanging and wanting for more, be on the lookout for Scroll Heart Fly, Social Media's Impact on Travel in 2024 by the Phocuswright research team, as we go deeper into social's role through the traveler's journey.
Thanks, Alicia, on those insights on social media for travel. Let's dive into some practical examples, including a focus on one critical and growing part of social media, short and vertical format video. Two of the Over this past 6 months, Miles and Google Travel teamed up with 15 destination organizations across the world to test the new YouTube Shorts compared to the TikTok and Instagram Reels. This included Singapore, Iceland, Tourism New Zealand, along with a range of US destinations. From this process, we identified a number of critical best practices. 2 of the consistent themes that customers found most engaging on short-form video were nature and food experiences. This was a reoccurring best practice regardless of the destination. I think it comes to no big surprise to anyone, including myself, that people are looking for unique natural locations, and as well as great food and cuisine experiences. These examples shown here from the US Virgin Island and the delicious Best Biscuits Roundup video from our Memphis client. I know I want to have some of those biscuits. Another best practice was the importance of people. It didn't matter if the people were in the forefront or in the background, but having people in short form videos makes the experience relatable and accessible for travelers. Humans just want to be around other humans, especially after the pandemic. You wouldn't go to a restaurant with an empty parking lot. You choose the busy one because you know that it's the hot place to be and it has good food. Another best practice is boosting content, which speaks to Alicia's earlier side that social commerce is becoming even more of an opportunity in travel tourism and the hospitality sector. And paid social helps with those efforts. In this example from our client Ocean Casino Resort, by boosting their organic content and running in-feed Spark ads on TikTok, we have been able to increase audience engagement, reach, as well as follower growth, which has increased 7-fold over the last 7 months. We went from 3,000 followers to 21,000 and growing just within 7 months, which for a property and a hotel and a resort, that's pretty remarkable. And as engaging, they have lots of engaging content. As you can see here, wanted to start the weekend early. I'm sure all of us are feeling that right now. With our partners at Hotel and Trip Scout, we have summarized here the 4 pillars of successful storytelling on short and vertical format video: inspire, motivate, inform, and entertain. Maybe not swim with sharks. We recommend including 2 or 3 of these best practices in the short brand touch point you have for your audiences. And to sum it all up, takeaways include personalize your content by traveler segment and lean into short and vertical video. Amplify your content with paid efforts and empower UGC. Encourage locals and your visitors to share so they can be your biggest influencers. Turning it over to Mitra for generative AI.
Thanks so much, Catherine. So generative AI has certainly been the technology topic of 2023. Many of you were with us in April for the webinar we did with Miles on generative AI. And since then, the pace of developments have been a bit dizzying. What I'm going to share is a snapshot, a piece of the picture that we have been following. So let's take a look at the timeline of events over the past year, which helps to illustrate how quickly things have been moving. Of course, we've just passed the 1-year anniversary of the public release of ChatGPT. In January, when Microsoft invested about $10 billion in OpenAI, that really catapulted it to the headlines and made all of us take notice. And since then, there have been many new capabilities that have been added to ChatGPT and to products from Google and others, including last week's launch of Google's latest model, Gemini. So while the technology has been developing fast and furious, how have we seen the travel industry responding? Well, it seems there have been sort of 2 strategies. Some companies have chosen to jump in early to experiment, and others have taken a more wait-and-see approach. Some of the news that we have covered at FocusWire include integrations from Trip.com, Expedia, HomeToGo, Priceline, Airbnb, and many others. And I encourage you to read our ongoing feature called AI Insights, where we talk to companies across the industry about how they are using generative AI. So how are consumers responding? Well, according to Focusrite's latest consumer travel data across these 7 countries, when asked how familiar they are with generative AI, the range is from about 2/3 to nearly 80% of respondents have heard of it, but a much smaller percentage have actually used it. And among those that are aware of generative AI, the percent that said they would be extremely or somewhat comfortable using it for trip planning ranges from a low of 30% in France to 50% in the US. We've heard similar results from an Expedia Group survey this fall of 20,000 people across 14 countries. These are adults planning a domestic or international trip in the next 3 years. 40% said they would be likely to use generative AI to find a hotel or vacation rental, and a bit lower percentage would use it to find things to do in destination, to compare flight options, or to get inspiration on where to go. Of course, the big question that I think everybody is wondering is, what is the ROI of Gen AI? One of the recent data points on usage came from TripAdvisor CEO Matt Goldberg during the company's conference call in November to share its third quarter financial results. TripAdvisor had launched a generative AI trip planner in July, and he told us that during the first 3 months in beta, members who created itineraries generated on average 3 times higher revenue than the average TripAdvisor member. TripAdvisor is also using generative AI to refresh its destination content, and Goldberg told us that that content is driving 15% more saves, and they saw double-digit increases in experiences revenue on pages with these content enhancements. We also heard quite a bit about generative AI at the Focusrite conference last month in Fort Lauderdale. Here is just a selection of some of those comments. Hyatt's Paul Weaver said they are exploring how to use it for managing disruptions. Make My Trip was an early adopter, and their CTO said they are seeing improvements in the look-to-book ratio. And Priceline CEO Brett Keller talked about using it to create hotel descriptions and to answer really specific questions that are coming in from travelers. So how is or can generative AI be used across travel? This chart from Lufthansa Innovation Hub's Travel and Mobility Tech newsletter provides a great overview of various use cases and examples of some of the companies that are creating solutions in the areas of travel planning, customer support, content marketing, workforce training, and internal knowledge sharing. As we are following development and talking to leaders in this space, we found that generative AI strategies can be thought of in 3 categories. First, and this seems to be the most common use case right now, is how can you use it as an internal co-pilot? How can you use it to fix whatever is slowing you down? Where do you need ideas and inspiration? Could a really smart, always-on assistant help with content creation, sentiment analysis, marketing strategy development, or staff training, for example? Then second, how can you use it externally for customer interaction? What problems do your customers have that need to be solved? This might be for support and service, translations, personalized recommendations. One idea that we are hearing a lot of talk about recently is the potential for generative AI to help guide travelers to choose more sustainable options across their journey. And finally, what do you need to do to optimize your content? For example, about your hotel or your destination. In a generative AI world, search is going to be more about providing answers than about providing links. So how do you make your content the answer? Experts suggest starting with the basics. Make sure that the content on your website is clear and up to date. Make sure you have alt text on all of your images, and write blog posts that tap into current topics. Here are just a small list of some examples of prompts that you could test, but again, it is really about figuring out what problems you have to solve. 2 examples of quick queries that I did, for example, for a hotel or destination, trying to figure out its strengths or weaknesses. The first on the left is a summary of positive comments. That might give you an idea of what to write about in an upcoming blog, or a list of negative comments can, of course, help to identify opportunities for improvement. And when ChatGPT provides these lists, it also provides then a link where you can see what the source was. As we think about the future, we expect to be hearing a lot more about autonomous agents. Bill Gates is one of the many tech leaders who believe that we will each have a personal AI assistant accessible through our phone or computer that can carry out online tasks on our behalf. Of course, the big question in an agent-driven world, what does SEO look like? Or maybe it would be called agent optimization. So that is certainly something that we will be continuing to explore at FocusWire. And to better explain how an AI agent could function, I'm going to play this very brief video of a personal assistant that is being created by a company called Otherside AI. This is an autonomous agent that can operate your browser to conduct searches, fill in forms, and in the case of travel, even complete your bookings. Let's just take a look at this. So what else do we expect to be hearing about as we think ahead to 2024 and beyond? Just a few thoughts to share. One is hyper-personalized dynamic websites that can adjust based on your specific profile. The second would be agent-to-agent transactions with those autonomous agents. And then finally, you may have heard of the Humane AI pin that has been developed. It's a wearable device that acts as a mobile AI assistant. Users can interact with it through voice commands and gestures, and the device can project text and images via laser onto the user's palm. Finally, I just leave you with this advice: just try it. That's what we hear again and again as we are talking to people across the industry. Just experiment and see what works with you. Figure out the problems that you need help solving, and again, how an always-on smart assistant could help you accomplish some of those. And in the resource list, we have also provided some suggestions of where to go for more information. And finally, I would just say, remember that while generative AI is not perfect, it is only going to get more smart. It will never be more dumb than it is today. Thanks. Back to you, Miles.
Thanks so much, Mitra, and we'll be highlighting at the end our April 2024 edition. We'll be repeating and reprising the Generative AI webinar with the team at FocusWire and Focusrite. So some practical examples, as we've seen from Mitra's examples, many of the tourism and technology's biggest players are already investing heavily in AI. And Google's launch just in the last week of their Gemini AI model promises to supercharge their full suite of platforms and solutions that are already a dominant part of the trip planning process. So we're already starting to see, just in the last few days, integration of AI into search functionality, including this example here from Denver, Colorado. And if I search for things to do, so we suggest monitoring the impact of AI on these platforms. Google, with Gemini, have got the opportunity to really enhance the user experience and even further consolidate their dominance in search, maps, business listings, all critical parts of the travel planning process. So look for opportunities to optimize your destination and or business presence on these platforms. And there's all sorts of ways you can do that that are completely free. There are, however, exciting opportunities for smaller businesses without an IT department or development teams, and these range from solutions in creating advertising, copy, review management solutions, all the way through to smarter, more nuanced revenue management solutions for hospitality businesses of all types. So every hotel, regardless of budget and size and technical ability, can have a very sophisticated yield and revenue management approach. And this example is from Revenue.ai amongst dozens of different examples. Miles has been testing and piloting a number of AI solutions for clients, including this example with Intentville, an AI-driven model that's trained on the destination's own content, complemented, of course, by all the information that's available out online, but it can also integrate the brand voice of the destination, so it can deliver relevant information in a brand consistent tone and style, and also across a wide range of international languages as well. And we're measuring that against some very user-specific centric. So establishing KPIs for your own testing and piloting is critical. And this example is one of a huge number of AI-driven traveler assistants, which Mitra just highlighted. This one is Guide Geek. It allows you to interact via WhatsApp. And we're looking at an example here offering advice on restaurants in Beijing. Now, Guide Geek offers white label solutions for destinations, which again can be trained on your own content, complemented, of course, by all the other information that's available online. Now, we've put together a huge number of resources, building on the major webinar we held back in April. We'll be updating that as we approach our April 2024 event. That includes use case examples, readings and resource list for yourself, and the input and examples of a huge number of experts on this subject. So the critical takeaways, you've heard it from Mitra: test and pilot, create a culture of testing and trialing. You need to validate and verify, particularly if you're putting your name or brand against content. We've all heard about hallucinations. So ensure the content is checked and verified. And you need to empower not only your own organization, but your business partners, particularly small businesses, by highlighting practical examples that where they can apply AI. So our final topic, and we're on the home stretch here, I'm going to pass over to Mike to talk about a number of areas of transformational tech and travel. Over to you, Mike.
Yes, thanks, Chris. Well, generative AI may be the hottest tech topic these days, but there's plenty of other transformational tech in travel to talk about. So I'm going to do kind of a rapid fire session, talking about a couple of specific topics I think are relevant, but mostly pointing out companies that I think are great examples of innovative tech in travel, some of which should be super relevant and some that are a little bit more broad. So the first topic is the real-time revolution that's happening in hotel operations, because hotels have all this data strewn across fragmented software and hardware systems and often have general performance and monitoring dashboards. But these days, it's possible to properly organize and get the right data points in the hands of the general manager versus the front office manager versus the housekeeping manager, as well as specific staff members at the right time. And especially in the context of staffing shortages and all the, the talk, whoops, I'm sorry. Went too far. Okay. All the talk about increasing loyalty and repeat business. Some of the benefits of being able to do these things are getting better forward-looking visibility into operations, optimization of staffing resources, such as reducing the number of housekeeping minutes per clean, and creating a better guest experience from automated communication to personalization. And the point is that there are now systems that can do this very well. So Actable is a startup that specializes in integrating operations, business intelligence, and labor management, bringing together multiple specialized tools under one platform. And a couple of other companies that are a bit more established but doing really great work in this space are Muse, which focuses on simplifying and automating operations, and Cloudbeds, which is known for its comprehensive operations, distribution, and guest management functionality. And then another topic I thought would be really interesting to talk about, especially because there's a high level of skepticism around it, is the idea that Web3 is proving itself in travel. So there are a lot of good examples of where it's gaining traction now, and a lot of people are probably still unclear on what Web3 is exactly, and definitions vary, which doesn't help. But my definition is technology that verifies physical ownership in a digital world. And that includes primarily the trust verification technology of blockchain, which can be used in or outside of virtual reality and the metaverse. And the best use cases of Web3 technologies help to reduce friction in the travel process, increase marketing opportunities, and reduce costs. So some specific opportunities that are gaining traction are using digital identity for seamless travel, creating digital twins in digital worlds like the metaverse, increasing efficiency and lowering costs of payment and settlement, and creating a direct distribution environment for airlines, hotels, and short-term rentals. So one of the best use cases I've seen for blockchain is for identity. This article on FocusWire comes from the company Indicio, which this year partnered with CETA and the government of Aruba to put together a trial of the Aruba Happy One Pass. So utilizing blockchain, they're allowing travelers to use their phones to turn their physical passports into verifiable digital credentials. And then through biometric checks done by CETA at the Aruba airport, get matched to their passport images via facial recognition. So that means soon you probably won't need to bring your physical passport with you at all when you travel to Aruba. And similar programs are starting to roll out in other destinations too, like Singapore and Frankfurt. And as I mentioned, another part of Web3 can be virtual worlds and the metaverse. And one of the more interesting companies in this space is Hotelverse, which produces a digital representation, often referred to as a digital twin, of a hotel in order to create a more immersive booking experience. So I pulled one screenshot in here that I think gets the point across, where you can see this interactive 3D representation of a hotel property. And this is right in the hotel's booking path on their website, and really gives the guest a good sense of the layout and where things are. And you could click and zoom in for more detail. You can even look at specific rooms and book specific rooms. So this is a web-based implementation, but you could also view it fully interactively inside the metaverse. So this is a case where the virtual component is much more of a feature enhancement than something trying to replace the travel experience, which is a lot of kind of the virtual reality in the metaverse. And I think experimenting technologies like this can be a great way to create buzz and reach new audiences. Now, every November at the Focusrite conference, we announce the FocusWire Hot 25 startups for the following year. And that's, in partnership, Focusrite with FocusWire. And this is a list of companies that we believe have great potential. So they're all on screen here, but I thought it'd be worth highlighting a few of the most interesting ones for you. The first is Autora, which is based in the UK, and it's one of the more futuristic companies. It operates local tours in autonomous vehicles like Waymo and Cruise, and the tours are narrated by AI-powered tour guides. They're currently trialing this in San Francisco and a few other US cities. And the vision is that these could be more personalized than big bus or even small group tours, and that they can take you to very specific places and be very reasonably priced. And they can be operated by hotel companies and local tour operators who could reap some of the economic benefit. Another is Weeva, founded by two women in South Africa. This is a sustainability management platform helping hotels and other tourism businesses track, measure, and report on their sustainability efforts. They're leveraging AI to make things easy and automated. And as Madeline highlighted, sustainability is such an important topic now, but I think it's hard to know where to start and how to track progress. So a tool that makes it easy and guides you through the process has a lot of value. Legends was a Hot 25 company and also was the winner of our global startup pitch competition this year. It was also founded by two women. They're based in New York, and they allow travelers to opt into sharing location and photo data directly from their phone in kind of an automated fashion that can be used by Legends partners like hotels and DMOs for personalization efforts in their marketing. So for example, a hotel app could offer their customers the ability to share very easily that they love surfing and yoga, their preferred destinations and times of the year to travel. But that stuff is kind of collected from their activity, and they can share it in a very easy automated one-click process. And I think this becomes extra important, this type of solution becomes extra important if and when third-party cookies and their tracking capabilities go away. Dharma is based in Abu Dhabi. They're building a marketplace for really extraordinary experiences powered by influencers, including celebrities. Thought it was worth mentioning since social's a hot topic, as Alicia covered. And lots of tourism businesses seem to be experimenting with working with influencers these days to tap into specific audiences and specific communities. And then one last one, it's a little more out there, but I'm excited about. This is Venus Aerospace. So they're building a hypersonic jet that runs sustainably on hydrogen. And a lot of people may be familiar with Boom, the supersonic airliner. and their plane goes Mach 1.9, but Venus is aiming for Mach 9, saying you can go from San Francisco to Japan or Houston to London in 1 hour. So I see this as a real potential game changer for how we travel, even if the tickets will likely be out of my price range initially. So that's it for me. I just did want to mention that we again, we'll be sending out some of the some resource links and some videos for some of the companies I covered in my section here will be included if you want to watch them and learn more about those companies. Back to you, Chris or Catherine.
Thanks, Mike. I really want to combine that Happy One Pass with that Sonic Jet there. That would be really nice for that seamless travel. Building on the Legends personalization that you just spoke to, the following are a couple of additional examples that show practical ways to use technology to really leverage first-party data, which we are seeing an increasingly critical to the success of both destination and hospitality clients. For our first example here is Visit Myrtle Beach and how they are using first-party data to take personalization to the next level to create that hyper-personalized dynamic website, which Mitra mentioned a few slides ago. Through our partnership with Flip2 and Blueshift, various content types featured on the site were organized and delivered in specific audiences based on user behavior. A user is able to heart, or as we know it, love, different types of content, which allows the personalization engine to learn user behavior and provide content offerings specifically tailored to that specific user. This delivers the ultimate user-centric experience. This second practical example features our client, HHM Hotels, and their independent collection. Leverages both first and third-party data, both crucial elements in personalizing their email and marketing strategies. This combination not only deepens and understanding of their customers, but we also significantly enhance the effectiveness of our campaigns. Our CRM strategy includes consistent data pending, including demographic information, lifestyle interests, buying behaviors, and one other favorite attribute of mine is discretionary income, because those penthouse suites, they just don't sell themselves. We have to target for that. By harnessing this combined data, we are able to craft email marketing campaigns that resonate on a personal level with our customers, such as National Dog Day is shown here, really targeting on those dog lovers, which I am as well. This leads to higher engagement rates, increased conversions, and most importantly, more personalized experiences for our customers. And for this final example, we want to remind all of you joining us today that even though Mike had amazing showing of all these new startups and technology, we want to make sure that you are focusing in on the technology skills of your team, and they're even set to become more important. This has been accelerated by the adoption of AI that Mitra just spoke to, and the increasing impact that these technology solutions, hiring, training, upskilling, and retaining your staff with sound technical skills matched by strong personal skills, because we're all in the travel hospitality business, will become even more of a competitive advantage. Miles helped lead a major study, Time for Democracy, which included a major section on developing workforce. And a recent staffing study in San Diego emphasized the number of technology jobs directly and indirectly connected to travel tourism. To sum it all up, takeaways include invest in first-party data and technology solutions for segmentation, test enhanced personalization tools to leverage third-party data for CRM, website, and digital strategies. Don't be scared, just start somewhere, just start testing, it's all good. High touch is just as important as high tech. Invest in your team so they can deliver the best experiences for your visitors and your guests. Passing it off to Chris for Q&A.
Very good. So we've been answering many questions in the Q&A function. I'm going to ask each of the analysts here to pick their most important trend for 2024. It can be one they've already talked about, or it could be another one they didn't have time to go to. So with that in mind, let me pass over to you, Madeline. What's your one trend that if you had to pick one specific thing, you'd highlight to the audience today? And if we could keep it to 30 seconds or less.
When it comes to sustainability, the top thing I want people to keep in mind is that awareness of this on the traveler side is still so low that while we've been talking about it as an industry for a long time, it's time for the consumers to really come into the light, to teach them a lot about this and to get them on board as partners in improving destinations and really making them better for years to come.
Thank you so much. Yeah, some really impactful research you shared, Madeline. So I think that's one of the most illuminating looks at sustainability that we've seen. So thanks again. Alicia, over to you. What's your one trend that you'd highlight to people?
Oh, that's a good question. From a social perspective, I think it's going to be that e-commerce portion. Let's see how much that grows, especially among our younger travelers.
Yeah, I think social commerce, and if you just have a look at the Asian markets that I know you guys monitor and report on, we're seeing really the impact of social commerce. And I think if we can solve some of the sort of technical barriers in terms of linking influencers and others, we could really see an explosion in social commerce in the travel vertical. Mitra, what's your one key trend?
Yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot still happening with generative AI. I think it's going to potentially be the topic of 2024 as it has been for 2023. I think we're going to be hearing more. We have not heard a lot this year from the big hotel chains, from the airlines and such. There's been a lot more activity, let's say, from the OTAs and some of the other players, and certainly a lot of startups getting into the space. But I think the hotels and the airlines and such are really working with generative AI. And so I think we'll hear some more concrete examples from them as we get into 2024. And I think also now as we start to get past a one-year anniversary of some of the existing implementations, let's say with Expedia and Trip.com and some of the others, we'll start to hear even more concrete results from them.
Yeah, very good. I'll come to Mike in a moment, but just to highlight again the webinar that we're planning with Mitra and the team at Focuswire in April. So we'll be sharing that registration link out to everybody. And Mike, over to you for your one key topic. And I think you've got a couple of resources from Focusrite to share before we wrap it up.
Yeah, well, I just have to build on generative AI as well. Mitra highlighted that video for autonomous agents, and I just see that as being super impactful next year because agents are going to start to really be able to do more, complicated types of work. And you'll be able to automate a lot more work using them. They'll just get better at understanding, and they're doing that so fast. So I think that may be the biggest story for next year: the use of autonomous agents. On the business side to automate work, and on the consumer side to help with planning and booking. And then I would add to that, kind of on the AI theme, robots too. Next year, in the coming years, production of mass production of robots is coming, and they're going to be more and more capable to be able to take on more and more manual labor, but even more delicate tasks. So lots to watch next year with AI.
Very good. And Mike, just a couple of resources here. We've got I think we're almost out of time. So we'll be sharing resources from Focusrite, Focuswire, including a whole range of research and subscription options. There's both free research and subscription research that it's available. And please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you again to the team at Focusrite. They've been wonderful partners. Please look for those resources we'll be sharing out tomorrow. And thanks so much to everybody here. We wish everybody a wonderful festive and holiday season. Have a great time, hopefully some time away with your family, and we'll see you in 2024. Goodbye, everybody.